Thank you, Randy. Next, there's also conjecture when people come up to the podium and talk about Captain Ash. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief.
Council, good evening. Most importantly, to the community. Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight to clarify how the investigation into Ash was conducted. I was asked to do it, but I'm more than happy to do it. I want to do it because I want the truth to be told. The investigation was underway when I became the chief of police. I became the chief in mid-November. The investigation was well underway for 6 months. So it was one of my highest priorities to deal with that investigation. I had several major issues to deal with, but this was one of my highest priorities. I had to ensure that for the integrity of the department, that the investigation was handled thoroughly, completely, thoroughly, and by an outside entity. And as I said, that was my objective. Make sure there was a thorough, complete, unbiased investigation. And I know there's some questions about how we investigate these things or how officers are investigated in general. There's usually two avenues. One avenue is a criminal side. The other is an administrative side. So I had to make sure that both of those sides were covered. The criminal side was being covered by the FBI, and I was very confident in their abilities. The FBI completes very thorough investigations. They leave no stone unturned. And as I said, I'm very comfortable in their handling of that criminal side of the investigation. The investigation continued into December, and in December, the FBI showed up in my office and they gave me a finding. Their finding was that they cleared the employee and they closed the case. Cleared and closed was the terminology they used. And what they were telling me and what they told me is that they found no crimes. Now remember, the FBI works on the federal level. So I had to ensure now that there were no state issues. We're still dealing with this one aspect, this criminal aspect. The FBI cleared and closed. So I had to present those findings to our Connecticut State's Attorney. And the Connecticut State's Attorney reviewed the case and also determined that there were no crimes. State level cleared, federal level cleared. FBI on the federal level, State's Attorney's decision on the state level. Now we have this second avenue. We still have to ensure that this case is thoroughly investigated. Remember, I said two avenues, criminal and administrative. The case was investigated by the Connecticut State Police, again, a separate and unbiased organization, and they undertook the administrative investigation. Now on the administrative side, they're not looking at crimes because we already looked at that with the FBI and the State's Attorney's Office. They're looking at policies, rules and regulations, town policies and such. And that's what the state police did. They provided a very thorough report. They reported to me that after their investigation, which concluded in early August of this year, remember this incident began to be investigated back in June of 2018. So over a year it took us to work through this process. Criminal side, now the administrative side. In their report, they found that they sustained policy violations against the employee. And those policy violations were noted in the report. But at that point, that employee had retired. The employee retired in late June. So my jurisdiction is no longer. Had that employee obviously still been employed by the police department, we would have to take steps to deal with what were called policy violations. So I stand before you tonight in full transparency. I want to make sure you understand how the investigation was handled. I want you to understand that it was my highest priority to make sure that case was handled properly, thoroughly, and completely. I'm honored to be here representing the men and women of the New Milford Police Department. Very happy to have my command staff here. We have high expectations for our officers and staff. We expect them not only to do things right, but to do the right things. We won't stand for anything other than true transparency, honesty, and integrity. I want the community to know that transparency is also very important to me. If there are reports, if we have reports, and if FOI allows us to release those reports, we're more than willing to be transparent. I want the truth to be told. I always seek the truth. And I always say that we're in it together. And I mean that. It is not us against, it is us with. And we're together, working with the community. We're one. I want to thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Chief.
I hope that my explanation helped. I'm always available. My door is always open. And we look forward to working with you and for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief.
And Attorney DeBell?
I forgot to inform you that although the mayor couldn't authorize the release of the report, he does have copies of my transmittal letter to Chief Boyne and Chief Boyne's acknowledgement of receipt of the report. For anybody who wants it.
Thank you, Attorney DeBell. Also, continuing on with mayor comments, today I received, as well as the council, received a letter or email from David Grombach concerning a letter with a quote-unquote whistleblower status. For those of us that know, you have to be a person to be a whistleblower. You can't be anonymous. But what I did do, as we've done on all of these matters, is I've directed the chief to review and explain what has been entailed on this letter, and we will get that back to you, the town council, and the public. And lastly, I'd just like to make a comment, and that's using people's careers, using people's personal issues for political gain is wrong. Absolutely 1,000% wrong. Using it for political football to damage our community is wrong. It's not what we're about. It's not what this community is about. The community won't tolerate it. Hurting people's lives, bringing back bad memories for town employees. It's not what we're about. It's not what this community is about.